welcome.
Hey.
We're here today to talk about the results of the 2024 Retouching Industry Survey, which is coming out very soon. It's coming out next month. So thanks to everybody for your patience while we finished compiling that. Greatly underestimated the amount of time that it would take to synthesize the data. But anyway, thank you. And thank you to the almost 100 participants who participated in the survey. We feel like this led to some results that I wouldn't call conclusive, but I would definitely say representative of the industry. You know, I'm here today with Peter, with Anna. We're here to kind of break down some of this information, give our thoughts and our opinions, and ultimately welcome you to join in on the conversation on the back end. Why don't we dive in? I want to start by introducing Anna. Anna has accrued over 15 years of experience in small-scale projects to large-scale productions. She has a background in both field work and studio environments. Her meticulous attention to detail ensures seamless operations of your set from initial capture to final retouching. She also offers customizable gear kits for rent, meticulously maintained and regularly updated to meet the specific needs of each project. So in sum, as a badass, Anna's been doing this for a long time. Anna knows her shit. So we really are excited to have you be a part of this conversation to lend your knowledge and your expertise and your experience.
Yeah, thanks for it. Yeah, no, it's super. That was like the best intro I've ever heard. Thank you for that. I'm going to be looping that in my mind over and over again. That'll just be my new pump up song. So no, I'm super excited to be here and talking about something that I think is, you know, needs to have its time and place in the conversation. So thanks for inviting me.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like what Emily said, while introducing this, you know, within photography in the photography industry in general, but I think a lot when you get down to like retouching and kind of the post-production and some of those behind the scenes things on sets or off sets, you know, it's so hush-hush about rates, about timing, about practices. It's not something you can easily Google, or you really got to get out there and talk to other people to figure it out. And depending on where you live, what kind of work you're doing, all these different things are affecting the answers you'll get or you'll find out getting. So, you know, our goal for this whole survey is to keep building it, getting more people taking it, and kind of fleshing a lot of this out and getting some answers and some roadmaps.
Taking some of the guesswork out of it, right? Like establishing hopefully what might be considered a baseline, or at least the impetus for people to participate in future surveys so we can really reach a consensus.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes in our industry, we can kind of feel like we work on an island of one, and knowing who to ask questions to can feel really daunting, like you're asking them to give away a trade secret. But, you know, especially when it comes to billing and just understanding how to bill and how to make sure you're taking care of your business, I think conversation needs to happen, and it's the only way to learn. Otherwise, you're just going to end up really undervaluing yourself pretty heavily.
Oh yeah, and I think it comes down sometimes, I think, to a competitive thing too, and that's why people don't want to share information. They think you'll have the edge on them in some way. But the saying, what is it, like all tides? What's that saying people say? Rising tides lift all boats, or something like that. Yeah, you know, it's like we've seen more benefits and good things come from the sharing of wealth and learning and helping others, because it'll help yourself too. So. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, actually, we're going to get into some of that in a little bit when we talk about rates. We're going to do a deep dive on rates, and we're going to also talk about why you should not underbid yourself ever, and how that relates to this notion of a rising tide.
Totally.
So I want to ask, what did y'all think about the average rate of $100 an hour reported by our participants? How did that sit with y'all?
Yeah, I'll go first. I thought it was a little low, you know, but also taking in mind, you know, we had people not just in the United States, but kind of globally from different kinds of work too. Some people were just focused on certain things, but at the same time, from my experience, it felt a little low. And I guess if you dive deeper into the experience levels and where those ends up to, maybe it fleshes out a bit more. But, I was thinking more in the 125, 150 range.
So the mode was actually 150, the rate reported most often. And you just had larger chunks on either side of the distribution.
I mean,
a lot of people did report 150.
And in my opinion, I feel like that's kind of where I thought the number was going to be too. So when I first read the report, I was a little shocked at 100 because it feels like for the largest chunk of the work that was being asked about are projects that require, a bit of skills and take longer and have higher needs in the output. So I was kind of surprised at the number. But then once I started digging in and you do see the chunks at the bottom, people who are charging less, like that definitely is going to offset what the median kind of comes out to.
Yeah, for sure. We saw rates at $5.50 an hour. We saw folks down at $30 an hour, of course, reflecting that more international pool.
What also crosses my mind when seeing this is, the other half of this is you can have a rate, but it also determines on how you estimate. Are you always underestimating projects and you say, $150 an hour, but it ends up taking you, you estimate 1 hour, but it takes 3 hours or something like that, which is a whole nother, topic on top of this, in terms of discussing rate and actually giving valid estimates and your use of time. But yeah, that range seemed pretty good. Yeah, the 100 seemed low, but yeah, 125, 150, those chunks in there seemed to me. I'm in Minneapolis. You're in Minneapolis too.
Yep.
But, we have projects from all over, but kind of based on that experience, I guess.
And when you break down into the data, and like you said, Peter, as you looked at the years of experience, that number did go up. And so it does make sense that, you include people who are younger, newer, just breaking in, that their rates are going to be a little bit lower. I just assumed there was more of us who were in that 10 to 15 year age range, who had been doing it for a long time. But I could be wrong. It's good to have people on both ends of the spectrum, I guess.
What were your thoughts, Emily?
But my thoughts,
our initial reaction,
I was kind of in the same boat as Anna. I feel like it was surprising to see $100 an hour, and I think it was 107 for just North America. So still around that $100 an hour rate. I was even more surprised. I know I shouldn't have been to see some of the pay inequity or these are rates we're talking about. So the rate inequity between males and females, those reporting as male and those reporting as female. So I learned that on average, those reporting as female are charging between 10 and 15% less. And you see the biggest disparity when you break down into the different kinds of retouching. So looking at e-com flats retouching, it's a 17.39% spread.
Okay.
On average, males are charging $92 an hour and females are charging $76 an hour.
Yeah.
You get the same you get a 21.5% spread between males and females on e-com on figure. So big disparity with on figure there.
Yeah.
And it persists. It goes on elevated product and still life, 17.5%. Lifestyle and travel. Oh, that one's at about 6%. So there's some parity there. The only place you see 0% spread, complete parity, is in sports and fitness, which I thought was interesting.
That is interesting.
14 respondents reporting on that. So.
Interesting. Yeah. In the back of my head, I was always like, I know there is a disparity here in this industry. I've seen it. We've talked about it, but now seeing it from the actual numbers and kind of solidifying it within what we're doing in retouching is I've never thought of it actually, I think the majority of people we bring on to help with projects are all female. I don't specifically, when we offer rates or stuff is based on budget, don't take that into account. Half of me is wondering, how does this happen? Is it pushed upon it? Is it estimating lower, or is it, how do we get to this, this pretty big gap? What did you say, between 10, 15 or more, 17% in some areas? Which, it kind of blows my mind. But it's it's not surprising. So it's hard to.
It's like the disappointing truth that you kind of know is going to be there, but it's still disappointing when you see it in the hard numbers. When I saw that, my first reaction was why? Why are the rates so much lower? And, is it that females just tend to undervalue themselves or feel like they need to give a little more for some reason or another? What is it? Are they willing to take the jobs that are a little bit less pay because they need to get a foot in the door? That's really my question was what's causing it and how do we fix it mostly?
I think there's I think it's column A, column B. Like there's a self-inflicted gender bias. Like I know as a woman, I have to do more with myself in this world. That's what I know deep inside. And there's also perhaps on the other side in the marketplace an expectation that a man is going to outperform a woman. It's going to be like technically better. Maybe it's because it's a technical type of job. That requires technical knowledge that perhaps, you know, no shade to the men, but like, you know, we know.
It's talking about this now. My wife and I had a conversation this morning. We're about to have a kid, and I think she's fine if I talk about this, but it happened with our first child on now, but kind of that imposter syndrome of that, you know, taking maternity leave, you know, if you have a kid, or now a lot of cases, paternity leave too, you know, you're at a company that can offer something like that. Or if you're a freelancer, hopefully you get some time, you know, hopefully you have that luxury. But the fact that, you know, if the fact of having a family affecting progression in careers because of maybe you have to take time off, even if you try to work through it. My wife had a comment that similar to you, Emily, saying just as a woman, she's in commercial real estate, you know, in a very kind of a boys club era kind of industry. And I think in the photography industry, you have parts of it that can be like that. But some of these, you know, feeling like you have to work more or prove yourself more to get to the same place a male could. And in that being said, you know, in thinking about rates, if you think you need to lower it just a little bit to get that job or something like that.
I think that's really insightful what you're saying about like women's roles as caregivers. And I think that it's interesting though, when you dig into the data a little bit, you start to see at 11 plus years of experience, rates go up for women. So let me see, I think females with 11 plus years of experience, the average reported rate was $122 an hour, which is about 14% more than male counterparts. So there's like some catching up that happens perhaps because there is like time taken away to be a caregiver.
I think it's valid. I mean, Anna, you have 3 kids now, right?
Yeah.
You can see this like in terms of it being a parent while also trying to run a business, especially in this industry where long days, last minute things.
Yep. I mean, when we had our kids, I actually increased my rate because I wanted to work less. You know, I didn't want to take on the jobs that maybe paid less but needed more days, so the money would work out one way or the other. Like I decided that I needed to find the clients who could pay me a higher rate and have more appropriate schedules so that I could have the weekends to be with my family. I think it seems like that shouldn't make sense, that increasing your rate will get, you know, you will be working a better schedule. But I think I just was able to prioritize the important stuff in my own business schedule, and increasing my rates helped that too. So, you know, maybe that's a little bit of the feature too, is the, you know, in the industry, as we get older, we start building the families, people start charging more, you know, maybe something like that. Or
really healthy.
It's hard to do. It's really hard to do. I mean, I think everyone in the industry, we're all artists at heart, right? Like that's how we got into it. And I think we always have a little bit of that. I'm never going to work again. Nobody's going to hire me. This is my last job. And so you have to have that grind, but you also do have to set boundaries because we are human. You know, staring at a screen, retouching for more than 10 hours, it's just not healthy. It's not good for, it's not good for our eyes. I joke that I'm 38, but my eyes are 47. They're just... It builds up. So I think increasing my rate, allowing me to, you know, maybe get rid of the clients that were not working with my schedule and taking too much time for the value. Like I was getting paid, but it wasn't worth it. And that allowed me to reset my schedule, still make an income, and my business can run the way I want it to, but also set boundaries and work a better schedule. So
love your approach, because I think a lot of people, when they're in that situation, I mean, you took a bit of a risk on yourself. I'm going to raise my rates. Maybe people will say, but it sounds like you had a plan. You were confident enough. I think a lot of people will go to, I need to get as much work as I can. I'm going to lower my rates to be more competitive because I need to get more money, more jobs, because now I have a family.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds very stressful.
Yeah. And in really what you're doing is you're lowering your value when you start bidding lower rates. You're saying my time is worth less than what it actually is. And you're doing a disservice to yourself, really.
And to the community.
And to the community, exactly.
To everyone else. Well, as you get older and mature, especially in this industry, I think you really start mature. Mature. I don't know. You can say it both ways, can't you?
Yeah.
But I think you really start to learn the value of your time. I think having kids, or as you grow over and have more responsibilities, you learn that even more. And the decision you made, and gets a reflection of that. Like, I know what I'm worth. I know what I want to prioritize in my life. This is the path to do that.
It's a good long-term strategy, because otherwise, you can't just pile on. You'll burn out. You know, and you want to have a nice long career in an industry that affords you at least $100 an hour baseline rate. I mean, because let's be honest, like a nice rate, so let's acknowledge that. But anyway,
but it's interesting though. Like you look at it as a rate, and my wife's a teacher, so we're constantly talking about she works all year long to make what, as a retoucher, some years I'm able to make by March, right? And that's just what it is. But then when we look at the backside, at the insurance and the liability and the, having a place of business and having, like, the rate's high, but also the responsibility is high. And what we're being asked to provide is more and more every year. And so, the rate should compensate. You shouldn't be going into business to just come out even. Like you work to make a profit, to have money to set aside for when you want to retire, because we all have retirement accounts so that we can retire. You should have a rate that allows you to cover all your assets, give yourself a paycheck, and put money aside. It's kind of that 3 zones. And if you're not charging enough, you're taking out of one of those zones. Either you're not able to build your business up because you don't have any money to set aside to buy the new stuff, to get the updates, or you're not paying yourself enough, so you're not able to do the fun stuff you want to do, or you're not saving any money for retirement, which is short-sighted. Seems fine, but when you're 65, I don't think you want to be sitting in front of a computer for 8 hours a day every week just to try and make money so that you can continue doing what you're doing. I hear people say, like, that rate is, you're making so much money per hour, but in reality, what we're being asked to do is it's comparable. We're being asked to come in and save the day a lot of times.
And you're wearing 10 hats, just a business owner alone, and taxes.
Yeah, all of it.
And payroll tax. There's a lot of other compounded things on top of that.
For sure.
As well as just running a business. And like you said, that fear of I'm not going to work next month.
Yep.
Stress
I think
is worth money.
If I could get paid every time I thought someone was never going to hire me again, I would be a millionaire. It drives you to continue to reach out and take the jobs that maybe, you are feeling nervous about, or maybe you feel like too much, but you figure out ways to do them. But I think what a lot of people forget is that we're business owners. We're running a business, and even you could be the most amazing retoucher, but if you don't have the business skills, the acumen to come through with it, you're going to be losing out on something at some point, either not charging enough or saving enough, and that's going to hurt you in the long run.
No, totally. I did want to bring up, I see that the majority of the respondents were between 25 and 54, with a concentration of 35 to 44. And is just kind of wrapping up that idea of, see, with the women, when their rates are actually, they increased heavier later on with age, more so than men. As you're first starting off in this industry, and specifically maybe and you don't have a lot of clients, your rates aren't going to go up as fast, because it's risky. But once you have that client base, I think you definitely end up feeling more inclined to raise rates, more comfortable with it, because maybe you could lose a client or two and you'll still be okay.
Yep, exactly. It's kind of like you end up pruning the tree. You end up cutting off the clients that are great, but don't have the budgets for what you can provide to them, and in turn, you're opening up space for a client who can provide that, and it's necessary as a growing business to do things like that from time to time.
What do you think about specialization? as a potential hypothesis for why rates do eventually up for women. Is that something, I mean, your client base, is that something that you've found happening in your own career? Is it something you've come across? It's common in photography, like photographers will specialize. It's better than to be a generalist. However, like
for sure,
focusing really beauty versus like lifestyle versus architecture, what have you.
You know, it's interesting. Sorry, Peter, go for it.
No, you go first.
I was going to say, you know, as retouchers, we kind of tag along with the photographers that we come up with. I think a lot of times, especially when you're moving up and you're learning and you're developing, you're building your skill sets. And so I think the group that you kind of jump in with and you follow through and who you connect the best with ends up being where you kind of have skill sets later down on in life, and then you can find more clients who kind of fit in those molds. But I think, you know, as far as like being able to charge a specific rate because you have, you know, like maybe, you know, some people are able to put themselves in a situation where they're always only doing beauty retouching because it is so specialized that, you know, they can charge a higher rate overall because they are so technically specialized in that area. I think that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I think similarly, as you see with photographers, like there's those photographers like, that is the beauty guy, or, you know, this is the sport, you know, like there's people who are known as certain things and they kind of, I don't know if you want to say a little bit of celebrity around them in a way where they can mark themselves up because, you know, there is definitely that. And I think also if you're specializing in something and you're noted for it, you're good at it, and clients can rely on you to deliver because they know you're consistent and good, and you can demand a higher rate. So people are paying for consistency, for knowing what they're going to get. You know, if you're a jack of all trades and it's a little bit of everything, maybe it's a little bit more on shaky ground of if you can actually do exactly what they want.
Yeah, they might not give you the full project because they're not sure that you're going to be able to. Yeah, that makes,
you know,
for sure.
From a retouching standpoint, though, interestingly enough, Emily and I, we're pretty well-rounded in terms of like our client base, in terms of what we're doing. And that kind of happens organically over the last 10 years. We never really specialized in one thing. But I think also, like you said, when we first starting out, a lot of the photographers we had, they kind of ranged from product to lifestyle to beauty. So our portfolio kind of grew like that. And so we started getting clients like that. So I think you're right. You know, how you start off and who you are in with and how you start building your body of work. Yeah, I think that's going to really sway to where you're going to be going. And maybe, if you get to the point, you know, there's definitely retouchers out there that specialize and they are very incredibly good at what they do. And I would say if I was going to hire somebody that I needed, you know, macro beauty shots of skin, I think I know who I might want to rely on if it's like a really important job with, you know, high risk kind of environment in terms of delivering
deadlines, you know what the outcome's going to be for sure. It's definitely has its value. Yeah.
And do you think there's maybe, it's making me wonder, is there a correlate to like what the photographers are earning? Like as the photographer is earning more, there are greater budgets for post-production. You know, sometimes it's greater than what you had expected or bid yourself, you know, so perhaps there's some correlation there. It's interesting. I'm wondering, we're talking a lot about rates and we're talking about parity, and I think I'd like to know, Anna and Peter, what your advice is for folks who want to raise their rates. Anna, if you want to go first.
Yeah. Well, I would say make sure before you raise your rate, make sure you have a set of clients that you are solid with and that you have a history with, that you've provided specific thing for, you know, multiple years, that they know what you're going to deliver, kind of like what Peter was saying. They know what they're going to get when they hire you. And then you just basically, you know, I wouldn't double your rates, but what I did is I just basically, you know, I said I was at 115 an hour and I wanted to have one extra week off a month. How do I navigate that? And so I basically just increased my rate by $30 an hour to get to the point where, you know, if I do this and I, you know, then I'll get that week off. All I did was I said, you know, as of January 1st of 2022, you know, my new rate going forward is going to be this amount. We've had a great relationship and a great history, and I look forward to all the opportunities of working together with you again this coming year. If you have any questions, please reach out. And and note at the end, I'm always willing to discuss. Like I'm always willing to bid specifics for a project. Nothing is set in stone, but just saying like, hey, I've done this, this, and this. I'm happy to continue doing that for you. But going forward, this is the new rate. And let's do it. And don't make it personal. It's a business choice, right? Like it's not, nothing with pricing can be a personal thing. So you just say flat out, this is what I want to do. I look forward to working with you. For the most part, everyone said, okay, great, updated. I've noted it in my books, and I'll see you on Tuesday.
I like that approach you had. This month, extra time off. This is what I need to raise my rates by at my given workload.
Yep. I just remember when I was in photo school, I went to tech school. And so we had to take a variety of classes. It wasn't an art school. So we had to take all the things to get that 2-year degree. And one of the classes was specifically about business. And I remember the teacher saying, figure out how much money you want to make for a year. So to do that, you have to know what your expenses are. And you have to know, my expenses are $50,000 and I want to have at least 15 to play. I need to make $65,000 a year. How many days a year do you want to work? I don't want to work every week. So you calculate the weeks, and then that determines kind of your hourly, where you go about it. And so for me going forward, even, since I started, that was an important thing of knowing where I want to be so that I can seek out the clients who can fill in the gaps to get me to point, where financially I can sit where I want to be. So I think, once again, we're all artists, we're all creative minded, but having that business understanding and just to protect yourself and to be aware of it is super important. But
that's a good way to think about it and go about it, working your way backwards into your rate. I mean, if you end up at like $1,000 an hour, you got to change your lifestyle and go to a different industry.
Yes, exactly. Have realistic goals, but also
maybe
if you want to
practice to actualize your life.
Yep, exactly.
There's like what the market will bear, and then there's how you value yourself, and you kind of have to find that. Yeah,
you have to find the happy medium, really.
I was going to say, I mean, that's kind of how I've increased rates, and Emily and I have progressed through the years. Wasn't as fancy as Anna's, but we usually did it in like $25 increments, really. And sometimes, we'd have a job come in that already had a set budget and they'd offer us something higher than our rate. And I'd be like, okay. And that kind of mentally was a new benchmark.
Yep.
That I don't think I specifically ever sent out an email saying my rates were changing or our rates were changing, just because we estimate every kind of job that comes in. And if they see, I've had people ask like, oh, last time you estimated you used this rate. And then I'll be like, okay, well, this year we raised our rates here and this. So, but you know what? I've never had a direct pushback on like, oh, a rate increase or this or that. A lot of those jobs, they're bidding through to clients, and you know what? I mean, in actuality, in some instances, like that rate increase, they won't even notice. Some projects they might, depends on your client base. But I also wanted to say one more note. I also wanted to point out, I've had a lot of thought about, at Hunter, great producers and photographers around that. I think it's really good to have people who fight for you.
Yes.
And know your worth, right? So you want to work for people, keep around those people who know your worth, are excited to work with you, happy to work with you, because those are the ones that will push forward those new rates for you, ask for more for you, they'll ask for more time, ask for more, and that that makes a big difference, especially when you're starting out.
For sure.
And when it comes to increasing rates and actually pushing forth that note of, how do I want to say this? Like saying that you are worth that, those are the people that speak up for you.
For sure. And I think that's also why, if you are in a community kind of like we have in Minneapolis, where there's a bunch of us who do what we do, and I see them fairly regularly. If there's somebody new, making sure that they understand that, you should be billing for this. And if you work a evening after you've done on set, you should be billing this. And just getting, it's important for those of us who have been in the industry for a long time to see the people who are newer and to offer the advice to them without them having to ask us, and offer up like if you do come across something that you don't understand, or you get asked to do something that seems out of the ordinary, text me, call me, and I'll give you my 2 cents, and then you can decide to do what you want to do. I think it is important that, if you've been in the industry for a long time and you do know people who are coming up the ranks, that you take and step out and reach out and just make connections too. Don't just wait for the new people to reach out to you. I think, building your community can happen on both sides. And so I think it's important, to be willing to have these conversations without having to be asked, I guess, maybe is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Oh, totally. And helping the next wave or the people coming into it is only going to help yourself too, in terms of if you can teach them the proper way, the expectations of certain biddings and how it should start, and it's going to make it easier as the new art directors, the new producers come into town, how they are estimating and producing it and their expectations. So it is a full circle kind of thing that, it has the whole kind of that industry effect. I think that's why this survey and trying to learn and bring some transparency and talk about it is important, because it's not talked about a lot. And a lot of people are in the dark, especially when they're starting out, about how much should I charge? Is there a difference between this and this? It can be a little bit of a Wild West if you're a little bit disconnected from anybody else in the industry that's working and has been in it.
And I think, if I were just starting out today, the people I'd be making friends with would be the techs and the retouchers on set, or there's so many online community resources, like on Reddit, there's groups of people who are just talking about stuff. And that's where I would dig in. And you see people asking questions and like, hey, I just got asked to do, the producer asked me to do this. And that seems like kind of not normal. Like, is anybody else being asked to do this? And I think it's important, if you're just starting out and you don't know, to reach out and to not, don't be afraid of somebody ghosting you, just keep asking.
Don't take it personally. Yeah. Exactly.
Once again, it's business. It's not personal. They probably just saw your text message on set and then walked away and then completely forgot about it. So not saying that I've ever done that, but I always tell people.
It kind of goes back to that whole rising tide lifts all ships.
Yeah.
And I think I had a thought. It's interesting too, on the flip side of that, we were just jumping back really quickly. If you underbid yourself, that can end up biting you in the ass, right? Like, but you might not even be awarded the job because your rates look suspicious.
Yeah, for sure. Or you can be pigeonholed, like you bid that rate you bid under one time for that client. Now you are locked at that rate, and their needs may change and they may ask for more and more and more, but like they have decided that you are worth this much. And then you're stuck there, and it's really hard to work for the same client when they've got an idea in their head about what you're worth, even though you're worth more. It's not just dangerous to the community, you're sticking yourself too a little bit for your future.
Also, as you develop and grow, there is a need to increase your rate, because I was talking with Emily earlier about this, and that, as you mature, how do you guys say it? Do I say it weird?
Mature.
Both ways are fine.
How about manure? Yeah. As you mature as like a retoucher or like an artist, you're going to get better and maybe garnish bigger clients, bigger projects. And if you still have a low rate at the time, like you said, like somebody on that on the client team is going to be like, that's too low. I don't trust that, So,
do you have any experience doing this?
Yeah, it's like, it's like that rate's too low for good quality work in a way, or for the quality work we want. And, there are clients out there, like it's, I think a lot of times they'll look at the highest bid at times and think that's the best work, which isn't always, the thing. But I think there is a general correlation with, higher quality work per se, or production with, if it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah.
And I think people are aware of that. But, early on in my career, Bobby Peacock, producer here in town, when I was getting into teching at the time, we had like some extra days of retouching that I estimated for her. And she told me, she's like, that is too low. I can't remember her exact words. Not that it would look weird, but something that like, like it needs to be higher,
Yeah.
And from the, that was like the first time I was like, okay, there is a thing to this where, you can be too high, but you can also be too low.
Yep. Yep. And that's where, just having the community to understand kind of where that middle ground of You're taking care of yourself. You're also taking care of the community is super important.
I really miss that about Minneapolis. So for folks watching, I used to be based in Minneapolis as well, which is how I know these wonderful folks.
Traitor.
I'm in Flint now, Portland, Oregon, and I know there's a robust community here. So anybody watching this, Emily at VeryBusy.
I'll put her address in the chat for you.
Yeah. So the survey, again, coming out soon. It totaled out to about 126 pages. I recommend those who are interested in reading it, scan the table of contents, find the overviews, read the overviews, and then if you want to dive in deeper to the data, it's all there for you. Questions about the survey, we have a handle set up, survey@verybusy.io. You can send us inquiries that you have if you want to know more, you want to dig deeper. Happy to pull up the spreadsheet and start filtering. So don't hesitate to reach out. Anna, Peter, do you have any closing thoughts you want to share?
I would say hopefully everybody reads the survey, and if you do, please pass it along, show people. And we're hoping to do this every year, maybe every quarter. I don't know, we're still figuring this out. You can actually, if you want updates on perhaps the next survey that we're going to do, you can have a verybusy.io. VeryBusy, what's the website? What's our handle for it? Now I'm drawing a blank.
Retouching Industry
Insights, yeah. Well, we'll post it somewhere. You'll find it. verybusy.io/retouching-industry-something. Yeah, insights. We'll post it.
If you go to our webpage, it'll be there. So we'll send a notification to all the folks who gave us their email when they completed the survey, telling us that they wanted to be notified. So we'll send it out to those folks, and anybody who wants to get it will simply just have to enter their name and email address, and they'll be able to download it, and that's it.
Pass it along, and feedback is very important too. Let us know what it's missing, what it had too much of, anything else you'd want to learn, let us know. It's a work in progress. So
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, Anna, thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, no, always happy to participate, especially if it can help the whole community,
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, the goal. Right. So, well, thanks for reaching out to me. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
All right, cool. All right.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you guys.